The Color of Water, written by James McBride. The Color of Water tells the story of two different perspectives on religious conflicts and racial conflicts through the voices of Ruth and James McBride. Ruth McBride came to the U.S. as a Jewish immigrant, but later left her home to go to New York, where her grandma lived, and once she met her first husband, she converted to Christianity. She was then known to be dead to her family because she was no longer a Jew. She had 8 children with her first husband, Andrew McBride. He died unexpectedly of lung cancer. She then later remarried to Hunter Jordan and had 4 kids with him. He also died, but because of a stroke. James McBride was a good student and a good son, up until his stepfather, Hunter Jordan, died of the stroke. Once he died, he suffered the most out of all the children in the McBride-Jordan family. He went down a dark path of abusing drugs and alcohol and making very bad decisions. This would take him many years to get his life back on track. James McBride has always been a very talented musician, composer, and writer. He thought he wanted to be recognized for all of his great accomplishments in music and literature. But when he realized that he wanted to give credit to his mother and make her proud of all the things that he and her have both done, he jumped from job to job trying to find opportunities to write about his mother. And he eventually released the book, The Color of Water. Ruth McBride's dream was more complicated than James' dream. Her dream was to put God first in everyone's life and to make sure that everyone was a good person, no matter what race, sexual preference, or religion. You would always give everything you could to help out somebody else, just like her husband Andrew McBride did, who she often boasts was the most kind person she has ever met in her life. Religion was a huge conflict for these two. Ruth had to change religions when she was younger, which meant she was then dead to her family because she was no longer a Jew. While James grew up as a Christian, but went to Jewish schools, so that meant he was the only black person who went to a all-white Jewish school. Going into that note, racism was also a huge factor in their lives because James was half black and half white, while Ruth was married to 2 black men, which both were unethical at that time. Both suffered from lack of money, so they could not afford to take care of anybody else, let alone themselves. James suffered through drugs and alcohol, which impeded his progress in education, and possibly the colleges that he wanted to go to. And Ruth suffered from the death of her 2 husbands and could no longer financially nor emotionally take care of her children, and James eventually led into him going into drugs and alcohol. Ruth and James always had financial troubles because they were living paycheck to paycheck and they were doing the best they could to financially support one another. But that didn't stop them from solving the conflicts of religion, which they thought as long as you're a good person, it does not matter what religion you are. And the death of the husbands, they overcame by coming together as a family and taking the advice of their fathers and going forward with it. James moved on from drugs and marijuana and alcohol because he went back into school and he got his education and learned that it's better to have an education than waste away your life with that. And race they never thought of as a big issue, because Ruth McBride thought of it as light skin and dark skin. There is no black and white. We are all one. I believe that this book has taught me that you really do need to learn to dream big and roll with the punches that life throws at you, because not everything's going to be perfect. But when you are down in the dumps and you can't seem to get back up, there's always going to be a second chance, and there's always going to be someone that's willing to help you to get back up and tell you that you're ready to do this. And that no dream is impossible to achieve, no matter how big it is. I would definitely recommend this book to other people, because it really shows how much willpower you have to get through situations. And I think it's just, these two characters are great role models to the public, and it shows how strong they can be and remain as a family.